Hey, it's Drybear. Lies of P, the latest Souls-like game to land upon our shores, has launched its paid early access, which is 3 days before its full launch. So we have the full version of the game if you're willing to pay the extra for the deluxe edition. And yesterday on stream, we played it all day long, so I want to give you my first impressions of the game after having played it for a good while. We'll be playing again today, and you can watch the VOD from yesterday at twitch.tv/Drybear. Now, I've been playing this game on PC, and I want to start with something that I wish wasn't really a talking point, but these days it absolutely is, and that is the game runs well and responds well. The game feel of itself, it doesn't really have too many bugs in it. It functions well, things pop up when you press the buttons, and overall it does seem pretty polished. General pacing is a little bit slower than most Souls games, and it does seem to be mostly inspired by Bloodborne, though it does have some Sekiro style elements to it. When I say the combat feels snappy, I mean exactly that. It does seem to be very responsive in the first 10 hours of playing. I do really enjoy the weapon style and combat and interacting with the enemies and being able to hit up combos and mix your attacks together in really fun and interesting ways. I spent my first day playing the game messing around with parries and perfect guards and weapon types and breaking weapons apart and recombining them just to see what the game is capable of, and overall I'm pretty pleased. Boss fights are all pretty interesting. They're kind of a mixed bag on difficulty. Some of the bosses are exceptionally easy, at least for my opinion and my perspective, and some of them are above average or just kind of cheesy on how hard they go on some of their mechanics, but I think that adds to some of the fun of the game itself. So far, after clearing a bunch of the areas and getting to about maybe a third or 40% of through the game, I would say there's only been one boss so far that has given me a significant challenge, and that boss has been a big pain, though most of them have been fun. Two of my main major gripes with the game, in my first impressions at least, has been the enemy types and the level design. The enemy types are almost entirely humanoid, and they function very similarly, though they do have different weapons and different attacks. It does feel a little dated in how they set up the enemy encounters that you run into in normal, just trash mobs clearing out these zones that you go through between bosses. And the general layout of the levels and the level design feels a little bit too simple for what I would like to see for a Souls-like of this era, though granted, if you're going to choose between an overcomplicated layout that's unfun to navigate or a simple and polished layout that's not super exciting and kind of boring, I'd rather take the polished, simple layout. But I will tell you that the levels kind of run together. They feel very similar and very samey. Even though the art does change a little bit, it does feel quite linear in the game progress that you're taking. And overall, my initial reaction to the game is that it's just generally good. It doesn't really knock me out of my seat or knock my socks off. It's not like mind-blowing or anything, but it's well made, well polished, functions well, feels good, and has a good amount of content for it for the sticker price that they're asking at $60 US. Now, generally with these types of games, since we see so many of them throughout the year, I like to look at what makes them novel or unique from each other. So let's talk about the unique aspects and mechanics that exists in Lies of P that you may or may not see in every Souls-like game. And the first one is going to be destructible enemy weapons. You have many different interactions with the enemy. You can guard, you can parry with some weapons, though there's not a default parry in the game. And you can also perfect guard, which you'll see right there. When you get those red and blue sparks coming off of you, that means that you landed a perfect guard. And when you do that, you'll see the enemy weapon light up orange, like molten hot. And when you do that enough, you can actually break the enemy weapon if they have a weapon that's destructible, which will snap it in half. It reduces their attack range, it reduces their damage, and it kind of super rewarding when you get these perfect guards on enemies to snap their weapon away. They have a Bloodborne style weapon art system that you have in the game, and they actually ended up separating the weapon into two different pieces. You have the blade or the top of the weapon, and then you have the hilt. And each of those has their own attached weapon art, and you can separate them. So if you find a baton or a club, you can take the club part off and put it on the hilt of a scimitar because you like the weapon art and style of the scimitar hilt and the weapon type of the club on top of it. So they don't limit you in that aspect. And it is kind of fun. The hilt and the weapon itself require different upgrade materials and gain different benefits. And when you mix them, it does kind of mess with the animation set and give you different weapon ARPs on top of it as well. Down below my face, underneath above the weapons, you'll see a bar there, and that is actually the weapon durability. And generally, I'm not a huge fan of weapon durability in games. It's kind of tedious to deal with. And unless there's a really cool mechanic around it, I usually don't like seeing weapon durability in games at all. In this case, it's of the better versions of weapon durability because it does give you benefits. So what that is, it's more like a Monster Hunter sharpness than a true weapon durability. So as it gets lower and lower, your weapon will start doing less and less damage. When it gets in the red, you'll start bouncing off and things like that, and you'll want to sharpen your weapon. Luckily, you have a grinder in your automated Sekiro style arm on the left side where you can reach your weapon over and sharpen it, and you also get consumables where you can instantly reset durability. And it's something that I kind of underestimated when I first started playing the game, because that damage loss as the durability goes lower is very significant. Some weapons, many weapons, get a large benefit when they're at max durability as well, and so finding time to sharpen your weapon or even using the consumables that allow you to max out the durability is super useful and adds to the gameplay as well. So of the weapon durabilities I've encountered, this is definitely one of the better ones, and it is kind of nice and flavorful to be able to do that. Also, later on in the story, you unlock special weapon grinders that sharpen your weapon that you can add elements to. So you get a flame grinder or a lightning grinder, and then when you sharpen your weapon, you'll get an elemental bonus onto your weapon for a period of time. So it's kind of like adding a resin or something on top of your weapon when you sharpen it anyway. Your Sekiro armored mechanized left arm is called your Legion arm, and it has plenty of different benefits, and there's actually a good amount in the game. I've encountered probably about 8 different versions of the left arm that all have different powers, and they also scale with stats as well. So if you're a fan of Souls-like games, there are some that scale with what this game's version of dexterity is, or with casting, or with strength, that sort of thing. So you can find ones that scale with your main stat and do additional damage. They have CC elements, elemental effects as well, and they also have ways to add additional staggers. So if you put someone in a staggerable state and then use your Legion arm, you can combo on them and get major benefits from that. The last thing that's worth mentioning, at least for a first impressions video, is going to be what they call guard regain, which is being able to block an enemy hit, and then as you become more offensive, you can recover health back. Several Souls-like games have had this kind of mechanic. Some of them have even mainlined them in recent years, last year or two. But the idea is that if you block an attack, you'll gain a certain amount of that HP shown in a gray form. And then from there, if you attack while that's up, you can regain some of that health back by being offensive. I think this is generally a good mechanic that rewards aggressiveness, especially in a game where you can be kind of squishy and in danger in a lot of ways. So saying, hey, I blocked, I took some chip damage because I blocked, and then if I can find ways to be more aggressive rather than just playing passively, I'll be able to recover some of that health back, and you can modify it with stats and specific builds. And those are my first impressions. I didn't want to make this video too long or too spoilery as people are getting into the game this weekend and into next week, but I want to give you my first impression of the game as I played it. Overall, I would say it is good. It's worth playing. It's a good time. It's well made and well delivered, which is a big value add for me, especially as we play lots of games. Some of them are poorly optimized, some of them are not. And I think if you like Souls-like or just general real-time 3D action games or action RPGs, I think this is definitely worth picking up. And of course, I'll update you as we get further into the game, and we'll do a final review once we've completed it and explored everything that it has to offer. If you found value in the video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and I'll see you on my live stream, twitch.tv/Drybear. If you enjoyed yourself today, leave a like down below. You can support me and my work on Patreon and view Patreon exclusive content, link in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.